this is Kevin for Pixavert.com. In this video, I want to show you how to create this kind of text effect that you see in the Justin Bieber promo for the Boyfriend single. Now, there are several ways of achieving the effect. I've already done it in this image here, and I'm using Photoshop CS6. If you watch very closely, you'll find that I'm using a couple of techniques here or there that are new to Photoshop CS6, but the overall effect can be easily achieved in previous versions of Photoshop. I'm not going to make a song and dance about the new techniques, but watch out for them. They are there and they're quite useful. The technique that I'm going to show you allows you to continue editing the text forever and ever. For instance, if I wanted to reposition the text, I can go to the group, and using the move tool, I can just move things up a little bit like that. I can even rotate using the free transform. That's Control or Command T on the keyboard. And if I want to, I can even go as far as editing the actual text itself. And I'm going to use a different paragraph style. And you can keep on making these changes for as long as you want. I could even go in and change the color of the rectangle that I'm using for the knockout text. So it's infinitely editable, and we won't actually be working on this image here. I'm going to work on this image here. As you can see, I've already entered in the text, and I'm just going to zoom in. You can see I've also applied a small drop shadow. There is no drop shadow in the Justin Bieber design that we saw earlier. However, I thought for this particular image it worked a little bit better. So the first thing we need to do is to actually add the rectangle which goes around the text, and to do that I'm just going to use the rectangle tool. So I'm just going to draw a very wide rectangle, and making it wide helps with the editing afterwards. Now I'm just going to take that rectangle behind the text, and what I need to do now is just to reposition the text so it's like perfectly centered with this rectangle. And to do that, I'm going to shift click the building, shift click the text layer and the rectangle layer, bring out the move tool. That one there just repositions the text so that it's perfectly centered within the rectangle. Next, I'm going to create a new layer, and we'll fill that layer with any old color. I'm going to Alt or Option click on the background layer a couple of times. We'll rename that layer Picture, and we'll bring it above the color layer. And this new layer I'm just going to use basically for alignment purposes. So I'm going to Control click the new layer, Control click the text layer, and I think we can use this alignment here to center the text within the image. I'm going to double click on the text layer, and we need to go to the knockout in the advanced blending, and we need to choose shallow, and then I'm just going to drop the fill opacity down to 0, and that creates a transparency. And the reason that we're seeing transparency is because there's no locked background layer anymore. I unlocked the picture layer in order to place this new layer behind it so that it would be out of the way. I'm going to hit OK to that. And we can fix this transparency issue by shift clicking the text and the rectangle and hitting Control or Command G. And what that does is that it creates a group out of the text and the rectangle, and then that means that the shallow knockout is now knocking out through to the first layer after the group, which is the picture layer. If I chose the other option, if I chose the deep option, I would need to have a locked background layer, and you can do that, for instance, by going to this layer here, choosing layer, new background from layer, and what that does is that it basically creates a new background layer, and the deep knockout will actually knock out all the way through to this background layer here. So I'm going to actually go back, and we're going to change the knockout to shallow, and that gives us the effect we want. However, if I just zoom in, you'll see that the drop shadow that we applied earlier on, which looked really cool, is now looking a bit weird. So I'm going to go and I'm going to open up the drop shadow, and if we look at the settings, we can see that we've got 909. I'm going to copy that to the inner shadow, and we'll actually use the inner shadow as the drop shadow because we've now got no more visible text. So the inner shadow will play the role of the drop shadow. And we're using the same 30-degree global light, which works very well for this image. I'm going to take the drop shadow and drag it into the bin because we won't be using that anymore. And that's basically our knockout effect. Now, to do some of the transformations that you can do after you've finished editing, what I'm going to do first of all is maybe change the text. Let's double click on the text we can actually go to the paragraph style. May be able to do it this way. I'm going to change the VA setting. Let's try actually the sky setting to see what that does. And if I click on this button here, the sky paragraph setting should give us a slightly different kind of text, but it's not doing that. And if I go and click on this button here, I find that it actually solves the problem. We now need to realign the text. I'm not going to bother doing that. I'm just going to bring up the text tool, select everything, and I'm going to manually change the character settings. So I think the VA settings need to be changed quite a lot. And there we are. Maybe move the text a little bit to recenter it. Just going to do this manually. And there you can see we can alter the text, and we can actually do major transformations. So if I choose the group, I can rotate the entire group like this, and I can do even more major transformations. Now, as you can see, I'm working with a group, and in Photoshop CS6 working with groups has never been easier. In this image, I actually found that working with the group and the live text produced a better quality text than converting the group into a smart object and trying to do things that way. What I'm going to do next is to make a radical change, and that will involve using the crop tool. We're going to take the image in like this. I'm going to accept that change, and as you can see, we've got a sky picture. So what I'm going to do, just going to zoom in. We'll go to the text, and we're going to do a major edit on the text. I'm going to select the text. We'll edit it to sky. I'm going to move this, kind of center it like that. And with the end of that radical edit, that's the end of the Justin Bieber boyfriend text tutorial. I suppose the closing message has to be, well, reach for the sky and never stop being a believer.